Welcome to Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You are going to hear the stories from the eclectic life of a guy who is a professional counselor, a family man, a SWAT team chaplain, outdoor enthusiast, a guy involved with ropes, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, a chaotic Jedi, and who is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Adversity. Using these stories, we take the facts lead to concepts, and from the concepts we make a variety of life applications. Just a caveat about the facts. Most of the time we will tell you the facts just the way it happened, but once in a while we'll give you the facts the way other people remember how it happened, and that usually includes a tablespoon of embellishment. No harm is meant, just good, clean fun for educational purposes. Please subscribe and share this with your friends. As always, we thank you for keeping up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Faulkner University introduces the Master of Arts in Christian Counseling and Family Ministry. Many youth ministers are not well prepared for the complex challenges facing youth, parents, and families today. This program is not designed to fulfill any requirements toward becoming a licensed counselor, but it is designed to equip the career youth and family minister to do just that, minister to families, by integrating prevention-oriented counseling skills and intervention strategies within a church setting. The courses include, but are not limited to, counseling skills, counseling couples and families in crisis, family dynamics, human intimacy and sexuality, parent and character education, as well as church assessments. All courses may be completed online from the convenience of your home or workplace and at the time that fits your schedule. Most courses are only 8 weeks long. There is a 60% tuition discount for members of the Churches of Christ. Visit the website faulkner.edu/KGST. KGST stands for Curley Graduate School of Theology. That's faulkner.edu/KGST, or contact Jimmy Holland, Director of Biblical Studies Recruiting, at jholland, HOLLAND, jholland@faulkner.edu with any questions or to find out about the eligibility requirements for the tuition discount. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. My mom is afraid of water. Okay, my mom is afraid of everything. No motorcycles, no boats. Always left early when we tried to go camping. So my aquatic activities as a boy were limited. I'm not sure that there was any friction, but I felt like my dad was insistent that the boys learn to swim. And so we took lessons at the Y, but he took us there by himself. I can swim, but it's not great. We have a workout pool at the house, and I try to use it sometimes for my cardio when I'm not able to run. And I don't know swim, but for maybe about 10 minutes, I do some Tabata intervals against the current. I definitely couldn't do a triathlon or anything like that. But based on my lack of exposure to water, based on my mom's fear of the water, had she known how much wading that I did in Rat Poison Creek, she'd have murdered me and then grounded my body. There was one particular place that was particularly wide and actually deep. It was deeper than my head anyway. And I built a cable. I put a cable across the creek. Now, this was not 7 by 19 3/8-inch galvanized aircraft cable, but some twisted wiry stuff we found in the discarded pile of trash in the vacant lot behind our house. It probably wasn't any stronger than the ropes that I was using, but because it looked like it was shiny, I didn't think it would rot or mildew. And I wrapped it around 2 trees, basically making like an oval between the trees. And then I put a stick inside the oval and used it as a windlass type lever that I could twist, braid the cables together, and tighten it. I thought it was pretty ingenious for a little kid. And now, on the days that I was going to go down to the creek and play and explore the woods on the other side of Quintard Avenue, man, my mom would give me the predictable, "Oh, you're going to the creek?" "Yes, ma'am." "Well, don't get in the water. Don't get wet." I'd say, "Okay." And then I would ranger crawl or tie my Swiss seat and attach my carabiner to the cable and slide across the treacherous waters of Rat Poison Creek. One time when I was helping with backwoods camp, the owner director and my first boss and mentor as a youth minister, John Rice, commissioned us. He said, "Hey, there's a sandbar somewhere down by the river. And I would really like to be able to find the sandbar and take the kids from camp down there and kind of have a river day." And I know it was me and it was Sammy Haynes and maybe one other guy. And we cut these long hiking sticks and we waded off into the Tallapoosa River. And as we walked along the shore in the river looking for this sandbar because it was so overgrown you couldn't walk through the woods, we used these poles to check for depth. And then when the water was too deep, we would kind of bounce float along the bottom. And yeah, we eventually did find the sandbar. And then I used a machete and a sling blade and I cut the trail from the main camp house all the way down to the sandbar so that the campers could enjoy a river day. And I've waded lots of places. I waded Hurricane Creek with the SWAT team during a final exercise of a sniper phase of SWAT school. I've gone down and waded the Hurricane Creek near our house with Jackie's dogs and with the grandkids. The SWAT guys, we were using the property owned by Ray Renfro. And the place we go with the kids and the dogs is right there where Hurricane Creek crosses Gurley Pike. And it's very, very mild, doesn't get very deep. On this particular day, I was with Gunner, my 9-year-old grandson, and we were wading and fishing in the Flint River. I had learned from floating the South Fork of the Spring River near Salem, Arkansas, how to fish these little flowing streams. We'd always fished in stock ponds. We never really did fish on the big open water. But I had floated this little river in Salem, Arkansas with a guy, and we just take what we would call a beetle spin. And when the current would stop or make an eddy or a pool, you flip your lure into that, and you could catch, long ear, and we would catch trout in Arkansas, red eye, maybe even a smallmouth bass. This lesson was reaffirmed when Jim Goins and I floated Estill Fork Creek. Now, the official name of Estill Fork is Esther Fork, Esther, but it is spelled Estill. Estill Fork Creek converges with Hurricane Creek and forms the Paint Rock River. I've also floated the Gasconade River in Missouri on a similar type trip where we would flip into the eddies and the big pools. And so I asked Gunner if he wanted to fish the Flint River. And I said we could kayak or we could wade. And he opted not to kayak, but just to wade. And we made pretty steady progress. And we finally found a place where the river split. It kind of came around a rock sandbar, kind of like a little island, and created a number of small but deep pools that held the promise of some fish. Now 9-year-olds don't care how big the fish are. They just want to catch fish. They're enthralled by the exploration and the wild imaginings that one might encounter a snapping turtle, a snake, or an alligator in this small cold water stream. I know parts of this section of the Flint River fairly well. It's where it starts at Highway 72, crosses the Flint River, and then you go north. I used to run that trail beside the river. I would pull the car up to Madison County High School, waiting on Lonnie Beth to get out of school, and I would run west on 72 and cross that bridge and then get on those old dirt muddy roads and run. And I'd go back and wait in the car to pick up Lonnie Beth. We've been going down there and take Oreo and throw water bottles into the current and let her swim out and retrieve them as part of her daily exercise for a long, long time. And I used to go down to that part of the river and practice for bow fishing. Now, the only real practical way to practice for bow fishing is to shoot things underwater. I have shot things in the yard with my bow, learning to point shoot, but there's just something about shooting something underwater where you have to learn how to use the refraction of the water and learn how low you really have to aim. My practice for bow fishing involves a game that I call fish. Very original, I know. But you simply take a 2-liter bottle and you fill it about a quarter of the way with sand or gravel, and you attach a line to it, maybe a cord about the size of your little finger, and you run that line through the length of about a 4-foot length of half-inch PVC pipe. You pull the line taut and you hold the bottle fish against that end of the pole, and then you can stick it under the water at any depth you want. And the aspiring fish assassin can learn to adjust for water refraction and shoot at this bottle at any number of depths. As the shooter gets better, you can then hold that little PVC bar on the bottom, open the string with your other hand, and the bottle will scoot across, bounce off the rocks, and eventually change depths as it rises up. And then the practicing shooter can shoot at a moving target as it scoots away and changes depths. You will be surprised. Actually, you will not be surprised that my lovely wife will not play fish with me. "I'm not going to stand in the river and let you shoot arrows around my feet," is, I think, the exact quote. But the pipe ensures that there are no errors anywhere close to you, but that argument falls on deaf ears. And to be completely transparent, I've never shot bottles using my own invention, but have only been the fish for several other people while teaching them how to shoot a bow at objects under the water. My very first outing to practice this new invention was, of course, with Troy Farmer. His motto is, "Sounds sketchy, I'm in. What time do we start?" Now, many people use the Flint River as a gentle float trip. It's basically, a very small, smooth river. You can go from Brownsboro to Highway 72 in about 3 hours. You can go from Brownsboro to McMullen Cove in maybe 4 to 6 hours, or you can start at Winchester Road and go either to Highway 72 or all the way to McMullen Cove, and that probably give you anywhere from a 4 to 8 hour trip, depending on the speed of the water and the speed with which you travel. You can rent a kayak or a canoe from Brown Bear in up near Winchester Road. You can rent from TGL, that's called the Great Life, TGL Adventures on Brownsboro Road near where the motorcycle club for the Saints used to be. Or you can rent one from North Alabama Canoe and Kayak on Highway 72. And when you rent one of these, river kayaks, or you rent a canoe, it's about what you'd expect from a Class 1 river. You see people floating all the time in inflatables, canoes, kayaks, rubber ducks, inner tubes, beer yachts. A beer yacht is a bunch of coolers tied together that can carry cargo, and I don't have to explain to you what the cargo is. So we go down here to the river, getting Troy ready for the next upcoming bow fishing excursion. And Troy's single. He's single and very available. He often has attention-focused problems in the presence of redheads. He doesn't really even have to be present with the redhead. They can be in church, they can be at Target, Walmart, traffic, or pedestrians, and Troy can get easily distracted. Well, we went down, spent a little while, shooting at bottles in the river. We got back from the river, and Jackie was teasing Troy, and she said, "Did you have trouble concentrating on the right target?" And she was referring, no doubt, to the swimwear attired floaters that she imagined we'd encountered while we were on the Flint River. Troy simply responded, "People don't take their trophy wives to the Flint River." Gunner and I were in the river, and we got to an area that looked the most promising. This is where the water split. So on the right side, you've got current, and on the left side, you got relatively still water. Well, when rivers get still after there's been a rain or whatever, things that got washed in there stay in there, and things pile up, particularly a lot of sand. The Flint is mainly, has a gravel bottom or a rock bottom. But as we began to skirt the edge of this pool so that we wouldn't get into the deep water and spook the fish, uh, and you could see, because of the angle of the sun, there was this legit monster bass in the middle of this pool, but he was not interested in anything that we were throwing. As we moved around the edge, and of course Gunner's 9 and I'm not, and he moves faster than I do. He was a little bit ahead of me. As we moved up, Gunner suddenly said, "I'm in quicksand." Now, I will say, as an adult, and after all the jungle adventure movies I'd watched, I was a little overprepared for quicksand. I've actually never encountered any. Well, I paused to take stock of his situation, and although my feet were buried in the soft river mud or the sand, I didn't think it was going to be a problem. It wasn't very concerning, so I just stood where I was. Made eye contact with him. I was calm. I was reassuring, and I just simply encouraged him to move careful and be careful not to lose his Crocs. He moved on, shoes on feet, thus confirming it was indeed sand and not quicksand from the jungle adventure movies. Well, I finally worked my way up to that spot where he had encountered his problem, and I just decided, I'm not going to go the same way he went. And looking under the water, I could see that there was a prominent hump in the water. And by hump, I mean it was a perfectly formed hump, like the mound of a freshly covered grave. But it was underwater. I assumed it was a buried log and would provide some good, firm, stable footing, and I stepped off into it. As I placed my foot on it, it began to release bubbles. Whatever was underneath here wasn't solid. And as the bubbles released, the absence of the air caused my foot to sink. My foot, my calf, my knee, and my thigh disappeared into the quick compost. It wasn't quicksand, but it was quick compost. This was not sand, but it was some kind of leafy organic debris. And based on the depth and based on my position in the water, I really didn't have any other choice but to bring my other foot around and just on instinct or reaction, I put my other foot forward, and now we have more bubbles, and I'm waist deep in this stuff. I'm waist deep in the submerged river compost mulch submarine. The voice in my head says, "Stay calm. You have a child with you. He will not believe your war cry sounds like a woman screaming." I did call out. I said, "Gunner," and I didn't ask for help. I just wanted to make sure he could see where I was and see the spot where I vanished, and that way he could tell the authorities. He looked back and laughed and said, "I told you it was quicksand." Now I'm on my belly in the mulch, and I'm crawling / swimming like a compost puppy. Now, this is very similar to a mud puppy, but they just live in different environments. I was calmly crawling. I was trying to get my way out of this stuff. I wasn't slapping water like a bongo player with Parkinson's. I was just calmly moving myself forward, and I finally got free. I finally got free and got into shallow water, and when I stood up, that's when I saw all the black particles on my skin. My thoughts were going crazy. Are these leeches? Are these water bugs? Are these spider eggs? Are these river ticks? Is there even such a thing? They were on my legs. They were on my underarms. They were on my belly where I don't have any feeling, but I could feel it. And it was all in my shorts. Stripping naked and thrashing in the briars seemed to be the only way to kill what was on me, but I thought it might frighten the 9-year-old and serve as a bad example for compost composure. So I just manned up. I just sucked it up and just kept fishing. At some point, we got into some clear flowing water, and I baptized myself not for the remission of sins, but for the removal of organisms, both parasitic and decomposing. And then we fished a little while, and finally, because of the heat index, I said, "Hey, we probably need to go home and get out of the sun and hydrate a little bit." When we drove home, I got out of the truck. I ran into the shower, and without being too graphic, let me just say that particular area of my body has not been that clean since I had a vasectomy. What what does it take to maintain composure when your circumstances would have you do otherwise? You wade out into a situation and you are waist deep in rudeness, incompetence, frustration, anxiety, fear, and rot. How should you respond? How should you act? Number one, consider your purpose. What good will this do? Now, if I throw a tantrum, if I panic, if I scream, if I yell, if I fuss, if I complain, I'll probably feel good. is an expression of my primal thoughts and urges, but acting out just because of the nastiness around me is probably not going to accomplish anything. What's my purpose? If it doesn't achieve a purpose, it's not useful. Sure, everybody will know how I feel about it, but what good will that do? Screaming out that you are uncomfortable, hot, tired, scared, mad, fed up, had it up to here, it doesn't do any good. Nobody likes to hear a complaint. And by the way, you don't complain unless you have a solution. Asking for help is different. Looking at someone and saying, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I'm caught, I'm uncomfortable, and I need you to know it. I need you to watch me while I navigate it. And if I go under, I need you to help me out. But just venting for the sake of venting doesn't accomplish anything other than venting. Number 2, just quietly work it out. Just navigate through the situation or get out of the situation. No speeches, no declarations, no agenda to see other people's reaction or I'll show them. Just look at where you are. Just look at where you need to be or want to be. And in some cases, it's not about right or wrong. It's about, is this good or is this bad? It's not about right or wrong. It's about smart or dumb. And look at where you are. And then look at where you could be or look at where you should be and make the decision. Put the proper things in place. Make the proper deliberate intentional moves. And just simply move or move on. Number 3, consider the audience. Again, not from the standpoint of making a point or giving someone an epiphany, not expecting them to realize how unjust, unfair, or unreasonable the thing is, not any kind of idea of I'll show them, but my response to the scary, my response to the uncomfortable, the traumatic, the unfair, or the unreasonable is actually a way that I can set an example. I'm being watched. On this particular occasion, the Reverend just being watched by my grandson. But I'm being watched by my peers. I'm being watched by my supervisors. I'm being watched by the people I supervise. How do grown men act? Even if they are afraid, treated unfairly, off balance, how do grown men act when things are difficult, nasty, unpleasant, or scary? This young man will see the way I behave in this very uncomfortable situation. And he'll learn to imitate it, or he'll see it and lose all respect for me. And neither one is an option that I want him to have. I want to be able to talk to him about how we act when we are scared, stuck, trapped, or feel out of control, and be able to say, act like me. I don't ever want to have to look at him and say, don't act like me. And then number 4, after you get out of the situation, after you resolve it, after you navigate it, sometimes you need to go back in there just to prove you can go back in there and the same thing won't happen again or doesn't have to happen again. We did. We went back the next day. The benefit of athletics is not always in winning, but in losing and going back out there and trying again. He really wanted to go to the pool where there were the most fish and where the big fish was. I said, look, we can get there, but we got to choose a different path. I adhere to the idea that the only way to deal with anxiety is to expose yourself to the thing that makes you anxious, but foolhardy exposure to toxicity isn't about bravery, wisdom, or resilience. It's just foolhardy. And sometimes it's dangerous physically and psychologically and emotionally. You see, the first way we went in was not actually dangerous. It was just unpleasant. But men who have the power to make good choices don't ever have to be afraid. Or we can choose how to respond even if we are afraid. Men can choose what we wade into, Men can choose what we could or should avoid, especially when we can get to the same place, especially when we can get to the place we want to be, and just simply use a different, smarter, safer route. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3 W's and a dot. hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.